John Huff, the director, came around and I said, John, I don't know, can we just do one? And he said, yeah, sure. If you want to give it a try. I said, absolutely. I just want to do one because sometimes the pressure of actually cameras rolling and people are watching and you're doing a take can help you focus. Helps everybody just focus.
Yep.
Sure enough, on that first take, the one and only take I did, jumped up, the ball came out, I caught it, boom, bam, hit the ground, landed on the ground, and that was it. It was done. So I felt so privileged to be a part of all of that.
So I said grace. I went, hey, God. Whoa.
I don't remember the initial interview for the Brady Bunch.
Elizabeth Taylor was wearing a $4 million ring. I said, oh, could I try it on? She said, no.
And Ed gets on and said, now for the youngsters next week, Tony Jones and the Spondels.
That's one of the best speeches ever given by a father to anybody. And it just happens to have been on the Munsters.
Just As Go was one of the first real guitar songs after the disco and ballad craze of the 70s.
We're building upon the shoulders of giants.
Talk about a media path.
Well, that's exactly it. Welcome to Media Path. I'm Louise Palanker.
I'm Lisa Arch.
Get ready to escape and return and race to Witch Mountain with 70s child star Ike Eisenmann. His new book is called You'll Never Be a Star, My Fantastic, Challenging Journey to Disney, Star Trek, and Beyond. Ike joins us very shortly, but first, Lisa, what did you bring to share with the class?
Well, Louise,
Yes.
So we had Wendy McClendon-Covey on.
We had her.
And we discussed that she was in the movie Hello, My Name is Doris
Yes.
with Sally Field. I had never seen it.
Oh.
So guess what I did?
You're going to have to ask an easier question.
I watched it.
I'm stumped.
I watched
you
it,
watched
Weezy.
it.
It was such a sweet movie. It's one of those films that's perfect to watch on your couch with popcorn. Wendy and Stephen Root, two of the most talented people on the planet, have small but meaningful roles. Max Greenfield, who I absolutely loved in New Girl, he's the object of Doris's affection in the movie. He's so good. But Tyne Daly and Carolyn Aaron, who you would know from Mrs. Maisel, they're just perfect. I want an entire movie with the two of them. They play Doris's best friends. Anyway, it's good, it's sweet, it's lovely. You know, is it the most brilliant movie ever made? No, but it is an absolute delight, and I highly recommend it.
I thought it was really sweet. I saw it, and it's really just about like getting out there and finding your people,
Yes.
you know, at every age.
Yeah.
You know, which is something Ike did when he moved to Florida. So we're going to hear his story very soon. It's time to load up on beach reads and our summer streams. And beach reads adapted to summer streams like Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. It is now an 8-episode streamer on Prime. It's a nostalgically romantic story of first loves and the people and choices that create forever imprints. Our story begins with 28-year-old Percy Fraser, who learns that a woman named Sue, who significantly impacted her childhood, has passed away. Percy decides to travel to the funeral, which will be held in, of course, the beachy town of Barry's Bay, where, of course, Percy was in love with Sue's son, Sam, but that was 10 years ago, and she's been haunted ever since by something unresolved. And so, of course, she's still in love with Sam, but he now has a girlfriend, of course. The series flips back and forth between Percy and Sam as teenagers and the present-day story as the plot lines unravel to reveal what went so horribly wrong to hurl these two children of destiny apart for 10 years. Book to streamers are internet chatter magnets, so I'm dodging spoilers to research this for you, but I'm enjoying it. Every Summer After is on Prime.
It sounds very like teenager-y, no?
Yeah, I mean, they're 28,
right?
But then they go back and forth to like what happened when they were teenagers. So it's got a similar sort of presence to The Summer I Turned Pretty, where there's some grown-up stories in it too. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just like sort of frothy summer fun.
Okay,
yeah,
adorable.
Sure. I would love to introduce our guest if you're open to that, Lisa.
I would like that very much.
He was living the life every kid thought they dreamed of, starring in Disney movies and Mannix and Kung Fu and Emergency and Gunsmoke, while all the while being tormented by his jealous and abusive father. But Ike Eisenmann is a dream chaser who triumphed over obstacles and created enduring magic that has delighted and entertained us since the 70s. Welcome, Ike.
Wow, I hope I
Hi.
can live up to that. Thank you so much.
Well, good luck.
You
We,
better, Ike. If you don't, just so you know, we kick you off.
you
Well, I'm
were-
super happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
We
Yay.
love your book, and you write that from the moment you knew what a Disney movie was, you wanted to be in one.
I did. I absolutely did. That was a huge part of writing the book for me, was trying to understand what that meant, because of course I grew up with that idea, then it came true. And then in trying to analyze, go back and look at how it all evolved for me. It was just, Disney was simply just a part of my entertainment landscape from far back as I can remember. My grandmother took me to the movies every weekend when I lived in Houston, and the wonderful world of Disney absolutely captivated me. And I just looked out there and I saw that, and I thought, this is a world I want to be a part of somehow. I didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I kind of knew I could be a part of it was being an actor. So it wasn't really like I set out to be an actor, but I wanted to be a part of television and movies. And that was this massive dream and goal of mine. And it came true.
You know what's interesting to me is, Ike, you're the first the first actor I've heard say that when you saw it, you knew you wanted to be a part of it. And it sounds like you knew that was an actual job, because, so many people we've spoken to here say they saw movies when they were kids. They wanted to be a part of it, but they didn't understand that was a thing you could do. It sounds like you knew that was a thing you could do.
Well, my father had his own live children's show in
Right.
Houston, Texas for 9 years. It was incredibly successful. I was actually on it when I was 2 years old.
Which you have a
I-
very vivid memory of.
I do. I absolutely do. And I didn't think anybody would ever believe me that I do, but I do. And it was quite an experience. And it was something that imprinted on me in a fascinating way, because I was on the set, and there were the cameras and the lights and the microphones and all these people doing all these things. And I could juxtapose that with being at home and watching my father on television, which I did every day. We had that television on, my mother and I, and then my brother and I, until he eventually decided to leave the show. So I was very much aware that these were jobs. There were people doing these things. So it wasn't just completely magical. It was actually something that people created and did. And when we moved to Los Angeles, all of our friends were in the business. They were actors or producers or directors. So there was always an awareness that it was something that there were jobs related to this.
Now, your father suggests to you, even though you have it in your mind that you would love to do this, it sounds like your relationship with your father was such that you weren't going to be that kid that said, hey, can I try out for stuff? You waited until he suggested it, and then you tried to hold on to your composure because you were so excited about the concept. But then on top of that, you start booking. And I'd love to hear like any numbers that you know in terms of like how many kids that start auditioning start booking.
Man, it's a low number. It really is. It's a low number for every actor. See, that's the hard part about it.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s, the entire acting pool, whether it was children or adults, was a lot smaller than it is today. So if you ended up, and especially for child actors. Oh man, my friend Moosey Drawer and I tried to sort of run down the numbers and see if we could come up with an idea of like the usual suspects that we would see on every commercial audition or on every guest spot audition. It was maybe a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had the talent and you had the look and you had the right agent, you could work a lot, and I did. I mean, I completely lost track of how many commercials I did. It was over 100 and 150 commercials or something like that.
There had to have been thousands of kids that were not getting in the door.
Yeah.
You were you were the guys that were getting in the door.
Yeah, we were. There were a lot of them, and they did book things once in a while because they had to kind of rotate. You couldn't have the same face in every single commercial on television, even if you were a kid.
Right.
So they, you know, a lot of other people would get the jobs, and you would kind of see how it spread itself around. But I was one of the lucky ones. I had an innate sense, an innate talent for it, and I was very hireable, and I was also a really hard worker.
Yeah.
People loved working with me. I wasn't, you know, a lot of kids were difficult to work with, and that's the whole big, you know, the whole big thing about don't work with kids and animals because they suck the attention out of the room. And I wasn't one of those. I was not one of those. I wanted to be a part of what was going on. So I
Yeah.
made sure I was a productive part of it. And,
You're very specific about that, about how you knew you were where you wanted to be, and you were and I think that is the difference between wanting to be a kid who auditions or your parents forcing you to, is you wanted the jobs, and once you were there, you knew how precious it was. And your first commercial, you were just an extra.
Yeah.
But then
Yes.
that you were not immediately, but during the day, you were bumped up to be the lead kid because you knew how to say the line, you knew how to hit your mark, all of that stuff. And you say, I mean, I'd love to hear it from you, but how in that moment you realized there were no nerves, you felt like you were home.
Yeah, 100%. The auditioning process was and remained until I finally retired the most aggravating, frustrating, nerve-wracking part of the process for me. I really couldn't stand auditioning. And you end up doing that 95% of the time. Maybe you work 5% of the time, but the rest of the time you're running around to different casting, you know, offices and auditioning for your jobs. And I really couldn't stand it. And it at first, but before I booked, it was a Rainbow Bread commercial. And I thought, man, I'm not sure I want to do this because there's nothing fun about this. But I ended up getting the job, walked onto the set, and I was like, no, this is what I want to do for sure.
Yeah.
Then I got promoted to the lead actor in the commercial, and I just thought, nah, this is where I belong. I could totally feel it, and that feeling never left me.
Wow.
Like you'd been there before in a former life.
Could well be, yeah.
But as your career flourished, your father began punishing you for it, so that every triumph was clouded by his rage.
Yeah. He again, a big therapeutic part of writing this book was coming to terms with all that and trying to understand it. It didn't make sense to me, obviously, as a child, but he would never allow me to be proud. He would never allow someone to overly compliment my work. And if anyone ever called me a star or referred to me as a star, he went into a rage and he lectured them and he said, I don't ever want to hear anybody say that on this set again. He's just another member of the crew. He's not a star. He'll never be a star. And it was just this thing he droned on about many times throughout my career. So and I say this all the time still, even using that word with myself to this day is very uncomfortable for me because I was so conditioned to just like, nope, that doesn't mean anything. And I didn't care about that. See, I didn't do it for fame. I didn't do it for recognition. As a matter of fact, when I became famous and I became recognizable, it was the most awkward, uncomfortable thing I can possibly share with you because I did my job. I was in that world, and that was the world I wanted to live in, and all of it just expanded everywhere else, and I couldn't get away from it. Not that it was a huge problem, but it was just a part of the experience that I wasn't interested in.
Right.
But my father had a very, very, very vested interest in becoming a star. And he used to tell me all the time, he is one, he should be one. Why is he not? Why is he not on a series? And I had to listen to these rants from him on an ongoing basis that just like I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why he was saying it to me.
Yeah.
And you know, he essentially used me in any way that he could to get attention for himself. So he liked to take credit for my work. He liked to tell people that he taught me everything that he knows, which is why I'm successful or good at my job, to kind of like cling to something about what I had going on for himself, and perhaps get himself work, meet more casting directors, meet more producers. So I became a very weird little pawn in his own scheme to pursue his own career. And you know, I felt bad. I felt bad for him. You know, before you realize that a parent potentially has seriously a mental illness, you feel terrible because they're not getting what they want. I was getting what I wanted. My mother wasn't getting what she wanted, and that's a difficult thing to grow up in. Period, and it kind of warps your thinking in ways that I really needed to and wanted to sort out. And writing the book really helped with that a lot.
Yeah, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy that you've done it, Ike. Now that I've learned more about you, when I first saw the title of your book, I thought some manager or agent had said that to you.
Right.
And when I started reading the book and recognized that that was your father who had said that, I just thought, oh, this is so dark. This poor baby. Because there's nothing more twisted than having your dreams come true and then displeasing the center of your universe. I'm so happy that you wrote the book and that you can now let it fly off of you out into the world so that you're hearing from people that had similar parents. I assume this is some sort of narcissistic disorder, you know, that he was suffering under. And
it is indeed. I will interject for a second, because after I had finished writing the book, my wife found something on Facebook. It was an article called "Are You the Child of a Narcissist?" And I always consider my father narcissistic, but you know, that's such a tossed around term now, that you know, anyone that likes themselves or they put themselves forward as a narcissist or whatever. But she handed me the article and she says, "You got to read this." And there were 6 or 7 different experiences that they were asking about. Do you feel this way about your parent? Do you feel this way in your life? Is this blah, 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 blah. Well, if you answered yes to any or all of these, you were probably the child of a narcissistic parent. And it went on to define NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, and it's actually a clinical diagnosis in psychology.
Yes.
And the hard part about it is that narcissists don't get help because they don't think they need it. It's what's wrong with everybody else.
Yep.
And so it's hard to diagnose in people unless you're literally talking to the victim of the narcissist. And I have had a lot of people say, "Wow, that could have been my mother, that could have been my father." And people close to me, all of a sudden close to me, turned around and read my book and said, "That was my mom."
Wow.
And I'm like, holy cow. I never set out to save anyone's life with this book, but I knew that I was going to have to, if I was going to write an honest story about my life, I was going to have to tell an honest story about my father.
Right.
And that was the difficult part. All the rest of it was so much fun to write. But I'm really grateful that I dug in and did that, because it actually has had a positive effect on many people.
Yeah, it's incredibly meaningful. And what you had to endure, like Wheezy said, letting us in on that is cathartic for the reader as well.
And brave.
Mm-hmm. And brave, incredibly. But let's go to something fun for a minute. I love you describing how much fun the stunts were for you. And I'd just love for you to speak to that, because, you know, now I don't know, most shows would not allow the kids to do their own stunts.
Yeah, I don't know how different it would be. Yeah.
And so I just want to hear about
old school stunts.
Yes, old school stunts and how much fun that was for you.
Let's throw the kid in the air and see if he comes
Oh,
in.
yeah, absolutely.
Test some gravity.
It was a little questionable as to whether or not I was going to get to do it. They actually had a stunt double for me.
Right.
In case I, number one, didn't want to do it, or the set teacher, just to give a little background, in California, when you're on a set, the children are supervised, or at least cared for or looked after, by a California state welfare worker who also happens to be a K through 12 teacher. Mm-hmm. You have to have 3 hours of school on the set, and they generally they're usually women, which is why I'm going to say she, because Irene Burke was our teacher on Escape to Witch Mountain. They also have to look after your welfare, and if you're going to do something that's too dangerous, they have the legal authority to pull you off the set and say no, they can't do it. You're going to have to do something else.
Would you say their authority trumps your parents' authority, or is equal to? Oh, it trumps it.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Because if my parents say it's okay to do, and she says no, I don't think this is safe. Because a lot of these stage parents will push their kids out there and make them do it anyway, even if it's not 100% safe. But for Escape to Witch Mountain, just as the example, because we did so many things on that film, one of my very first special effects I was involved in, and basically a stunt, was jumping 12 feet in the air and catching a softball. And my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I was so excited to be able to do it. And I'm looking at Irene, and we're kind of chatting, and I knew her well because she had been my set teacher on many different shows. Because I had the clout because I worked enough to actually request my own set teacher, and I loved her to death. I requested her for Witch Mountain, and she's looking. There's this camera crane that's up in the air with these wires hanging down and these big old canvas covered foam pads on the ground, and special effects guys are getting stuff ready, and she looks at me and she looks up and she says, "Are you sure you really want to do this?" And I said, yes, absolutely. I want to do it. It looks like so much fun. And I was a very athletic kid. I was in gym class and baseball and everything. And so I thought this is just going to be fun. So again, the old days of practical effects, on set right there, they wired me up. I had these, they were steel shorts that were wrapped in leather and padded with sheepskin foam, and they had bolts sticking off the side, and the wires came down and bolted to me here, and then they pulled me up, and they didn't just yank me up in the air. We rehearsed quite a bit before we actually did the stunt. And I couldn't have been more tickled. I was just having so much fun. So we were, and the funny part of the story is, we're doing this over and over and over again, and it had to be coordinated. It seems so simple. If you see it in the movie, it's like, no big deal. I jump up, I catch a ball. Well, one of the other special effects guys, his job was to toss me the softball, at the right height. And as we're rehearsing, the ball either went over my head or went this way or went under me, or I did this and went spinning around. We never got it right. And, John Huff, the director, came around, and I said, "John, I don't know. Can we just do one?" And he said, "Yeah, sure. If you want to give it a try." I said, "Absolutely. I just want to do one." Because sometimes the pressure of actually cameras rolling and people are watching and you're doing a take can help you focus. Helps everybody just focus.
Yep.
Sure enough, on that first take, the one and only take I did, jumped up, the ball came out, I caught it, boom, bam, hit the ground, landed on the ground, and that was it. It was done. So I felt so privileged to be a part of all of that, because that was part of the Disney thing. You look at the Disney movies from the 50s and 60s and early 70s, and they were so full of special effects.
Yeah.
They had all these fantastic things that were being done that I wanted to know how they were done. And then I got to be a part of some of the most fun special effects in any Disney movie, period.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy that my job was to play and to play and to play and just be a part of something really seriously magical. It is. People always ask me, what's the favorite movie I've ever been in? Escape to Witch Mountain. I loved everything I did, but you can take them all away and leave me Witch Mountain, and I'll die a happy man. So,
wow.
Well, you write that you're 11 and Kim Richards is 9, and you write in your book that you really didn't speak to each other unless it was like part of the script. And I think it's kind of natural that boys and girls in those age groups don't know how to talk to each other. They don't really communicate at school. They have separate birthday parties, by this point, and they don't really meet each other again until like sophomore year of high school. But so that part makes sense. But the part that doesn't make sense is the way that she was trying to sabotage you And you can describe that for us a little bit. And Ike writes about it in the book, that there was something going on in her home life where she felt like she was somehow in competition with you, and that it was going to be you or her. This was some sort of contest.
Yeah, I have never quite been able to figure it out. There were a few instances where, unbeknownst to anyone else on set, she was trying to distract me, like during a dinner scene, kicking me under the table during a take to screw me up. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And I didn't want to say anything about it because I was too shy, too scared. I didn't think it was any of my business necessarily to talk to her. And the hard part was I couldn't talk to my father about it because he would have, I don't even know what he would have done. It would have been disastrous. So I kept it from him. But when it happened a couple more times, it was starting to affect my work. And, I don't know if there was necessarily something going on at home regarding this, or if she just had some idea in the back of her head that maybe if she tripped me up, she would shine better in some way. But she was only 9 years old. And half of me thought, well, maybe she's just, being a little unruly, and that's all there is. And I ended up having a conversation with John Huff, the director. I called him up and went to his room and unloaded all this anxiety on him. And he said the same thing. He said, she's 9 years old. Don't worry about it. Just let me know if something else happens and I'll take care of it. And eventually she did do something else, just a little petty, towards the end of the shoot, and he took care of it. And right there in front of everybody, because she had actually done it publicly for the first time. Every other time she was able to hide it,
right.
Essentially. She was able to hide it. So I could never figure that out. I never could. And it was, unfortunately, a story I wanted to tell, because these are the kinds of things that happen on sets when there's a lot of pressure going on. Yes, we are playing and having fun to a certain extent, but we are also expected to perform at the same level the adults are.
Yeah.
In everything that we do. So there is a huge amount of pressure on children of that age, and it can get to you. I mean, it never really got to me because like I said, I was born to do it. It was just my thing. But with her, I could never tell if it was just her being, a little unruly or a little bored or whatever.
Can I pose a theory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is my theory, Ike. So the way your father told you, whatever they tell you to do it bigger.
Yeah.
Like to get noticed. Yes. I wonder if her parents said, when you're on set, make it difficult for the other actors.
It could well be. It's as good a theory as any other.
You look, like the way that you handled that at age 11 was so incredibly mature.
Yes.
Because you always understood this is a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we are building together. Nobody could do this movie alone. It's not a solitary activity. But the other thing was that I think she was showing the early makings of a real housewife.
Yeah.
She was shining in that sabotage arena.
That is a very good point. Yes,
Ike is staying silent on this point. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
But
it is a special skill, and I won't begrudge her it.
Right.
But when you met her again at on the next film, she gave you a big hug. She was more mature. Yeah. But you guys have never since. You've never spoken about that, what happened when you were real little.
No, and it's difficult for me because I don't know if she'll ever read my book. I don't know if anyone will ever say anything to her about it.
She's going to read Ike.
She doesn't remember. She doesn't remember anything from working on that movie.
That's the other point.
Right.
Okay, so since you guys had to go and do press, you did like a whole press day
in 2009
when the new movie came out. Yeah. Sorry about the titles because they all have Witch Mountain in them. Yeah, Return, Escape. So you're talking and you're looking at her like, and she's like, I washed a bear. She doesn't remember any of it. Why has this woman suppressed something where you could look at a screen and be reminded of that day?
Mm-hmm.
Something wasn't okay, I think, in the Richards household to where that she suppressed this. And then, you know, the sabotaging is just so peculiar because you've worked with a lot of fellow child stars and no one else was behaving in that way. So I don't know. I think there's more to her story.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, and I feel terrible for her that she doesn't remember. But that was one of the things that set me in motion to write this memoir, because all the things I worked on were very important to me, and they all add up to the story of a life, which you both have read. And thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. But I thought, I'm the only one alive that remembers everything.
Oh, wow.
And it's got to be put down somewhere. It doesn't, I often call myself the Fahrenheit 451 of Escape to Witch Mountain because, you know, I'm the one that knows it all and remembers it all, and I can recite it back to you.
Wow, yeah.
So I thought you know, people need to know. I want people to know about this. I want them to have an opportunity to know about these things that not just happened to me, but I was involved with, because it's such a well-loved, you know, it's a Disney classic. I mean, it's a classic movie, and I thought people should have a chance if they want to learn all about it. But
I also want to make it clear, Ike, that you don't have to be a fan of these movies to read this book. Like, it is a wonderful memoir of a child star. It is from the point of view of somebody who was in turmoil, but also doing something they loved as a child. And there's so much about it. You do not have to be someone who grew up with these movies to read this book. I just want to make that clear for the audience because it's really a wonderful read.
Yeah, and also I read a lot of memoirs. Ike, you go into great detail about what it feels like, what it smells like, what it looks like, what it sounds like to be on a set.
Yes.
And so, you know, that part of it that you included is, and I don't know where you got the wisdom to include all that, but it really places you there, and it's a wonderful read.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and I feel that way too. You don't have to be fans of any of these movies. It's the experience of a child actor and a child star, and that was the biggest creative decision I made when I finally said, because I wrote, I can't tell you, I wrote at least 3 completely different drafts of this story.
Wow. God.
And they were awful. They were absolutely awful. I read it. I said, "Oh my God, I wouldn't give this to somebody. I can't. This is terrible." And my wife, bless her heart, she's been probably my best critic and my best supporter, of course, my best friend.
Aww.
But she was reading these things and she says, "Ike, you're not in here anywhere. You know, you got to put you in your book." And I've been so self-conscious about that for so long that I wasn't really getting into the meat of it. And I thought, well, how do I want to do this? I read other memoirs as well, and they were all very reflective. It was the adult remembering back and commenting on what happened from the perspective where they sit in front of their computer today. I thought, I want to put people in my shoes. I want them to see what it feels like to be on a set where things are going wrong or things are going right, or walking through the day. All those little things that you just pointed out, and I really appreciate that, because I am blessed with a gift of very detailed memories of my life. Plus, I have all this material that, like you said, watching it refamiliarizes you to the experience of doing it. And so I would, you know, watch my episode of Gunsmoke and over and over and over and over and over again, because I remember what it was like to be there, but then seeing the video of it helped put me back in that place. And that's what I wanted people to experience. And I'm getting that feedback from a lot of people that they really have appreciated that take on it. And I'm very proud of that.
So we have to talk Eddie Albert for a second, because you write that it's important to me. He was a method actor. Yeah. And so his character is grumpy when we first encounter him. Like, did he ever, because he's in most of the movie, like, did he ever soften up to you guys once his character softens up?
Absolutely. He did. That was fascinating, because when I first met him, both Kim and I looked at each other, because he was like, "Hey, hi." Yeah. He was the curmudgeon that you see in the movie. And and over a series of scenes, he does soften up and he becomes sympathetic to our plight and wants to help us and all of that. And his whole on-set personality changed right along with his character. And I thought, well, that makes sense. If he's a method actor, then yeah, that would be the case. And he was absolutely lovely to work with.
How
except
funny.
Except for those first that first week or so.
That's a little scary for children, though.
It is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Bette Davis, the way that you write about her is so interesting because you picked it up as a child that she needs people to be a little in awe and a little frightened. And you were too young at first to understand that was what she needed. And you're the kind of person that wants to give people what they need. You meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm. She was a hoot and a half to work with. I mean, the only part about her massive persona that followed her everywhere, that existed on the set was the way I watched her deal with people on set.
Yeah.
Because yes, she wanted to be dealt with like a star. You didn't need to acknowledge her as a star, but you needed to she wanted to be taken care of like a star. And I would watch her make people jump and run and do these things, and then they'd run off to try to take care of her, and she would say things like, make do with what you got. It's always been my motto. I'm not worried. Or they would run off and do something, and she'd say, yeah, she said, this is how it's done. Like, this is how it's done. This is how stars do it. I'm going to teach you. So she was fascinating. And the thing was, we had to work standing side by side for weeks at a time. So, and it's not like we had massive conversations because, there was chit chat and some joking that went back and forth. But what struck me the most about her was her sense of humor, because she was really funny, really witty, and really dry. And you had to kind of pay attention to see if she was, she was giving you one of these or if she was serious.
Right.
But and it's not that I treated her like a star, because she performed like an actor. Mm-hmm. That was the thing I learned about stars and all the big stars. They were there to work, just like I was there to work.
Yeah.
They had a job to do that they wanted to get done. And, she wanted this Disney movie to be something she could be proud of for her grandchildren.
And did you find out if her grandchildren enjoyed the performance?
I have no idea.
Oh, they didn't come to the screening or to the premiere?
No. I barely remember the cast and crew screening of that, and she did not. She was not there for it. She was at the wrap party, but she was not at the cast and crew screening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
So I don't know.
All right.
It'd be great to find out.
Yeah. William Shatner, because you got a double dose of him, and he was different.
That's right.
So describe all versions of Bill that you encountered.
Well, yeah, I got full on. He was Admiral Kirk in The Wrath of Khan, but boy, it was full frontal Captain Kirk from the moment I met him to working with him. He carried this bravura around and he was puffed up all the time, and in a way, Bill is a method actor, because he immersed himself in that character, which was both interesting to watch and very annoying.
Yeah.
Because he gave himself, in my opinion, on Wrath of Khan, a little bit too much credit for. I mean, he stepped across some boundaries, and so did some other crew members in a scene we were shooting where he was directing me on the side every time I did a take.
Yeah.
And it was very uncomfortable for me, because you don't do that. Other actors don't do that with other actors unless you're working your parts out together and you're deciding, okay, let's come to each other and we'll figure this stuff out together. And if you see me messing up, let me know. And if I see you if you have that kind of relationship, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But to lean in and tell me to read my lines differently, I was like, I don't even believe that this is happening.
Oh.
And a couple other people on the film did that too to me, not actors, but crew members. And part of what I was observing working on this movie was a heightened a massive sense of insecurity from everyone involved, because the first Star Trek the Motion Picture, the first movie version of Star Trek, did fine at the box office, but it was critically just destroyed. Nobody really liked it. The fans hated it, and no one thought that they would ever do another Paramount would actually even bother to do another one. And then Wrath of Khan came up, and I was thrilled because I just wanted to see another Star Trek movie. And then I got a chance to be in it, and it was like, oh wow, this is fantastic. Yeah. And it's probably my one major experience where I had so much exposure to the original series. I watched it in syndication constantly. I loved the show. I loved the actors. I loved the characters. But then there was this oddness about everyone on the set. You know, Bill is insecure and acting out, and some of the other actors were insecure and acting out. I never really got to talk to Leonard Nimoy because he hid in the back of the stage away from everybody. So it was a bit of it. And then there was Kirstie Alley. It was this brand new character, and we became very good friends. Actually,
oh, wow.
we got quite close on the set. And I talk about it in my book, so I'm not telling tales out of school right now, but she had some series of episodes with, I don't know who in the cast this happened, inflicted this on her, but they were treating her very, very badly. And she came crying to my dressing room one afternoon and just was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it. I don't know why these people are doing this to me. And she wouldn't tell me what it was, and I respected that. But she literally said she was going to quit the business because she said, I don't want to be involved if it's like this. And the thing about Kirstie that was incredible to me was I couldn't figure out why. I didn't even told her this. I said, I don't even know why you're in this movie. I mean, you're the funniest person I have ever met. And you're playing this unemotional, straight character. It didn't make sense. I said, just, take the money, run, do the job,
yeah,
and get over it. Because and this is a quote, I said, you're going to be more famous than any of these people, I promise you.
Wow.
But you got to hang in there. You got to hang in there and go and go pursue it. And I have no idea if I had any influence over her or not, but it was so incredibly obvious at that time that she was a gifted comedian, and well, the rest is history.
Yeah.
You had that read on Kirstie, and then you had the same read in a similar way on Alfre Woodard.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I have these conversations with my wife about these experiences because this is clearly not in the book because it had very little to do with me. But being in LA and going to comedy clubs and seeing musical acts and all that, you every once in a while get the opportunity to see someone who you just say, that person is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. And Sam Kinison was one for me.
Oh, wow.
And through a friend of mine, he and I helped Sam Kinison get his first acting job because we would go watch him at the Comedy Store.
Oh, wow.
As many nights a week, and we became friends. And so you get these opportunities. And so here I am now working on Cross Creek, this absolutely lovely movie that I recommend to anyone. It's a really beautiful film.
I have to say, I have not seen it, but
I watched it last night.
You did?
Yeah.
Dang it. I watched I watched clips from it, and I was like, how have I never seen this? It looks beautiful. Yeah, so I will be watching.
Yeah, it is. And it's the true story of... it's based on the true story of Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings and her life in Florida when she gave up everything in New York City to write the great American novel. And she moves down to the swamps of Florida and ends up having all these real life experiences with the people around her. Mm-hmm. And that became the inspiration for her to write The Yearling.
Wow.
So that's ultimately what happened to her. But this one character of Geechee, who is this, she's just wild. I mean, Alfre Woodard is one of the most gifted actresses I have ever seen. And we met, nobody knew each other. I mean, so many of of the other actors were very new. You know, they weren't very well established yet. And this was Alfre's first job. She'd done theater in Los Angeles and theater in New York, but this was her first work in film. And she's this very lovely, glowing, flamboyant, amazing woman. And then I see her come in her first scene. She comes clumping up playing this uneducated, not very well spoken character who ends up becoming Marjorie's housekeeper. And she comes in, and the very first bloody take she did, I thought, this woman's going to get nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
I could see it. And it's just that thing where you've been exposed to enough talent and new talent and old talent that there's an X factor that's just there in somebody. Mm-hmm. And she had it. And it took every ounce of patience I had in me to wait until we were finished shooting the film. But I told her before we left Florida, I said, look, I got to tell you something. You're going to think I'm absolutely nuts, but you're going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this. And she just guffawed and poo-pooed me. And I said, here's the deal. When the nominations come out, you're going to get a phone call. It's going to be me. And all I'm going to say is, I told you so. And it happened. And I did. And she screamed bloody murder into the phone. And of course, it launched her career. So,
I love that
I got
story.
to be yeah, I even get chills sitting here just telling my own stories, because I not only get to be part of like great films and TV shows and work with great people, but I got to be part of things like that that are rare. And it's really such an honor, and I'm so grateful for all of it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I just wanted to say that I knew Dana Hill when I was a page. She was on my lot often, and we became friends. And she was a magically gifted actor who died very young because she had diabetes, and it just took a toll. And you knew her, Ike. Like, she just was a beautiful person. And
oh my God, she was amazing, and her work in that film is just it's gut wrenching. She, and she's so good, and she worked so hard on that and did such an amazing job. And yes, it killed me. It broke my heart when I heard about her passing, because she was too special. She had too much to offer. So it was a real shame, but she's great in the film.
I'm so happy that so much of her lives on in the work that she did. Thanks for coming along down the media path, and however you have found your way to us, we would love for you to like and subscribe and give us a nice review, because as creators, it is our appointed duty to ask you to do that. You may also want to find us on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook, where our show page is Media Path Podcast, and our Facebook group is Media Path with Fritz and Wheezy Podcast Community. If you are listening to our show, we are also a video podcast on YouTube at Media Path Podcast. You can write to us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. My TikTok is Louise Palanker, where I post behind-the-scenes peeks and clips from the show. And Fritz's TikTok is Fritz Coleman Comedy. He posts stand-up clips and popular dance crazes. Our website is mediapathpodcast.com. There you can binge episodes and our spicy newsletter. Thank you so much. On with the rest of the show. I want to hear about your postcard battle with Roddy McDowall.
Roddy was my absolute favorite actor to work with, of anyone. He was just the nicest, sweetest, most fascinating person I had ever met. And we got along famously right away. We hung out together on set. This was on Fantastic Journey, the series. And the crew and the production was having trouble with one of our actresses. She was brand new to the business. Her name was Katie Saylor. And she just walked onto that set entitled and was just kind of made things difficult for everybody. And and so Roddy and I talked about it, and I said, I said, I just don't understand. This work is hard enough. Why would somebody want to make it harder? Why aren't people grateful for being able to do it? What is wrong with her? And I said, and then I started telling him my stories about Kim. Just to see if I could get some insight. And Roddy said, well, there is somebody that I will never work with ever again, but he wouldn't tell me who it was. And I thought, this is interesting. Well, I started getting little notes like dropped in my script or on my chair or on the desk in my dressing room. Little love notes from Kim. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? And then he goes to some, Hollywood souvenir shop and buys one of those cheesy Grauman's Chinese Theater cards. And on the back, I have it. I wish I could show it to you. You know what? Can you give me a second?
Yeah,
and I will grab it and I'll show you. I'll show you the before and the after.
Okay. So awesome.
Oh, maybe he'll tell this too about the watches. Okay.
Well, yeah, I will. It's right behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, this is my office. It's all Mickey Mouse stuff, and my memorabilia is behind me, and I'm looking at all my wonderful plush dolls up on the shelves. So yes, I'm a geek that way too.
So great.
So
I love it.
So he sends me this postcard
From Hollywood, yeah.
and on the back, let me see, I'm gonna put my reading glasses on. See,
Yeah.
I'm
We're at that
getting
age.
to that
Yeah.
age. It says, "Oh, Ike, Walt Disney came to me in a dream last night and told me he wants us, you and me, to be the next great screen love team, like Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon." I asked. He smiles. "No, more like Mickey and Minnie Mouse. I get top billing. Devotedly, Kim." So,
Oh my God.
so I get that from him, and of course I know it's him. Now I recognize his handwriting, and I thought, man, I got to find some way to get back at him. There's got to be a way. And the only way I had a clue as to who the person might be that he won't work with ever again was he took the TV guide back. I don't know if either one of you are old enough to remember that.
Yeah. No, I love
TV
Are you
guide.
kidding?
Yeah.
Of course.
I used to do what Roddy did. I just didn't have as much recording equipment as he had.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but
Yeah.
he would underline all the shows he wanted his assistant to record.
Right.
And he rattling things off, and I asked him about it, and he shared with me, and all of a sudden he came down to one, and he said, "Ooh, the Owl and the Pussycat." No, and he scratched out the whole page. And I thought, man,
clue.
I started asking around because it was really hard to pick up on gossip in Hollywood those days, although some of it was very, very easy to come by. And I asked if Roddy had ever had any issues with Barbra Streisand, and he said, yeah, they didn't really get along that well on, I think it was Funny Lady.
Right.
So I thought it might be Barbra Streisand.
Okay.
So I went to the Hollywood souvenir shop, and it's already been altered, so you're going to have to imagine it without. But I got this card of Barbara
Yeah.
My God.
and its memories of the way we were and the way we will be, love BS is what I wrote at the bottom. Well, I sent it to him, and then he sends it back to me marked up like this.
Oh.
And in the little
Bubble.
dialogue bubble, it
Yeah.
says, "I'm a Katie Saylor fan."
I love this.
Oh, and I love that you have
So-
it. That he sent it back.
Oh
and
yeah,
that you have
yeah.
it.
I was very good about hanging on to things like that. And that was one of my gifts my father gave me. Because I always try to remember some of the things where he was a good person and he did nice things and he was thoughtful. Again, it was in alignment with his narcissism, but he was an avid collector of all things about himself.
Right.
Any
Yes.
news story in Texas, any pictures he could find, anything from the station, and where he had his show and all that stuff. But he instilled in me this idea of making sure I hung on to these things because there would be some point when I would really appreciate having them, and I do.
That's incredible.
I look at them every day, and they're personal reminders of many of the things I've done in my relationships. And after he sent me that card back,
Oh, yeah.
see, this is the Ike show here,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, that's what we came for, Ike.
We came for the Ike show.
We
Yeah.
came for the Ike show.
Yeah, we paid full price.
Yep. It's so funny
After-
too. I just want to say, Ike, that now I feel like any sort of thing like this would be done over text.
Right.
And
there
so-
wouldn't be any
and there wouldn't be any
physical.
memorabilia. Right. So I love
Yep.
so much that you have this stuff.
Yeah, I do too. But after he sent that back to me, one morning he came walking up to me and he dropped a wad of Kleenex in my lap. And I thought, what the heck is this? So I look up at him. He sort of walks past and leaves me with it. And I open it up, and inside it is this Mickey Mouse watch.
Vintage.
Yep. And he came back, and I was just like, "Oh my God, Roddy, thank you so much. This is just the neatest thing I've ever been given." And he said, "I have no idea why I have it. I have no idea where I got it from. I don't even know if it works, but you're very welcome."
Oh.
And my own little plus to this is I've never tried to wind it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't want to find out it was broken or
Yes.
unintentionally break it.
Or
So
it, as is, as
yeah.
Roddy gave it to you.
What time is it
Yeah.
stuck at?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
We'll
let's
call
see,
that Roddy.
340.
We'll call it
3:40.
3:40 is Roddy
3:40.
o'clock.
Roddy o'clock.
And we will celebrate that every day.
I like it.
Yeah.
Or twice a day.
Yeah.
Yes, twice a day. That's right.
Unless you're in
Exactly.
the military. All right, we have a little game called IMDb Roulette, and we spin your IMDb. What?
And I just want to say before we get to it,
Yes.
because this is kind of the end of this part of the interview, I just again want to encourage people to read this book. There are
Oh my God.
so many more stories, not only about your home life, but about there it is, about life on set.
And-
I saw something about if people wanted a signed copy. Do you want to mention how people would be able to get a signed copy?
Absolutely. If they just send me the book along with self-addressed return postage and packaging, I'll be happy to sign it. And you can send it. The address is 1633 Future Way, number 196 in Celebration, Florida, 34747.
Florida.
A lot of people are sending me books, and it's lovely.
That's
we
so
we
cool.
want to come visit you in Celebration,
Yeah,
Florida.
we're gonna
'cause
come
what
visit.
You describe where you live, it's just so magical. But
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
so happy you're exactly where you're meant to be. All right,
And I
so
want
we're,
you to know, Louise, that when you said that, he didn't say you're welcome to. He just sort of nodded and smiled. So I think maybe.
I can pick up on cues.
Yeah, okay.
But I may just drive by.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
Okay. So in IMDb Roulette, we spin your IMDb Roulette wheel, and then we stop where Lisa and I have selected. So we do cheat at this game.
Correct.
But we want to hear you just tell a little story about these credits. The first one is Gunsmoke. Of course, I always wanted to be in Gunsmoke, and
Yes.
you were in Gunsmoke, and it's one of your first credits after a lot of you booked a lot of commercials, but you were in it like 3 times. The credits, the names I have for you that you played are Caleb, Johnny, and Clay Elkins. So by the time you had your 3rd appearance, you were given a last name. So we would love to just hear about what it's like on the set of Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke was just simply amazing. Had been such a long running television show, and of course, I watched it. Our family watched it every week. And the first episode I did was called $11, and it was just a super fun part to play. And I got to work with Ken Curtis, who played Festus. And I mean, it was the beginning of being a part of all the magic, because it's a Western, right? So it takes place in the past. And so you've got all these props and horses and, the old house that we worked in that was aged, an old barn, and I was wearing vintage clothes. And I just felt like, man, I've been playing these games in my backyard most of my life, and here I am in the actual costumes and on the actual set of this show. It was just an absolute blast, and a common practice back then, and even Michael Landon did it on Little House, was they would often have actors back without having to audition. So I got, over the course of 2 years, just got a phone call that said, we'd love to have, my agent would call and say, you're back on Gunsmoke. And I'd say, outstanding. The second one I did, I worked with James Arness, who is massively huge as you could possibly imagine, but a sweet, sweet, sweet man, and a joy to work with. And then the third one, I think the title was Patricia, the name of the episode. I can hardly believe I remember these things myself sometimes.
Yeah, it's incredible, actually.
But yeah, and that was more of an action adventure thing. There was a tornado or a massive dust storm that came in, and and they had to create that with a big Ritter fan, which is this monster airplane propeller mounted inside of a cage, and they turn that sucker on and they blow dirt in your face, and you're having to fight through all that stuff. And I'm going to sound silly, but it's everything that you would think it would be having watched the show.
Wow.
That's what it was like. They were great people. A great show to work on.
Okay, Kit Carson and the Mountain Men. You played Randy Benton.
Yes. That was a particular favorite of mine. That was a two-parter for The Wonderful World of Disney. I did, I'm trying to think, four or five of those. Yeah, Disney ended up signing me to a 3-year contract where they had the option to use me on 2 projects per year, and they usually shot them during the summer. And Kit Carson was one of them. And it's a Western. We shot it up in Mammoth Mountain in California during the summer, which is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And we had tons of, Kit Carson was a scout for Colonel Fremont, I believe was the character name. And we're all going out on this expedition trying to get to quote unquote California. And Kit Carson is supposed to find the way through across the land and get us there safely. And of course, there's a villain that wanted to kidnapped me and hold me for ransom because he was mad at Kit Carson or something like this. There was just all these shenanigans and all these wild actors. I don't think there was a single actress. I think there was only one actress in the whole show, and it was just in one scene. So it was all these wild, crazy, and I'm not kidding, drunken actors.
Oh,
not during work days. They didn't do it during the work day, but man, by the time they were off, that hotel was a wild party. It was absolutely crazy. But I even probably paraphrasing my book by saying I was yet again living my dream. I was in a costume. I was on horseback, and I was working with the grown-ups, and I was the only kid. So I got to feel like just one more adult doing my job, and it was a lovely summer.
Wow.
All right, we have The Bastard, in which you play Lafayette, who was like kind of an America fanboy. He wanted to come here and experience what we were up to.
Yes. Yes, and it was age appropriate. I was 16 at the time, and that's how old he was when he was here. And I don't remember all of what he was up to, but my part of playing Lafayette was befriending Andrew Stevens, the bastard in the story, and I only worked a couple days on it, but it was so much fun because I had a fight scene and I got to get all muddy, and then I got to teach Andrew Stevens how to fence. So I had this whole fencing sequence where I had 5 days of training in how to fence, and Andrew and I never rehearsed together because he was so busy working on the show that when I showed up, he and I looked at each other and said, "Fingers crossed. Let's hope this works." Oh, and so we did our choreography. It was all choreographed, and we got through it in one take, and it was absolutely a blast. Wow. It was a blast.
Wow.
Boy, for a guy who likes being on set, you did a lot of things in one take. So you had very short days.
I did.
You're too good.
I actually, okay, this is a story that's not in my book, so you guys I think will enjoy it.
Nice.
I did have a reputation for getting things done in one take.
One take, Ike.
One take.
Yeah. And then it became kind of a badge of honor, and I tried to make sure that happened most of the time. And usually when you're shooting, they do a second take just to make sure they've got a safety take. But I was 17 years old, and I auditioned for Fantasy Island. And it was just another fun show I wanted to do because all the shows I worked on were shows I watched, and I loved watching them, and I wanted to be on them.
Yeah.
So I got the part, but the producers ended up finding out that I was only 17. Now, remember, I told you about the teachers and the set teachers in school. If you're back when I was working, the law or the restrictions have changed dramatically since. But if you were under 18, you could only work 8 hours on set. You could only be on set for a total of 8 hours. 3 of those hours had to be school. 1 hour was lunch. And so you're not really on set a whole lot. And when you're busy in a show, especially on Witch Mountain, you're trying to get as much done as possible.
Yes.
So the producers found out I was 17. They said, no, we can't do that. It's going to put us behind. We got to keep our schedule rolling. So, we're very sorry about that. Well, my agent told me, and I said, call him back right now. Tell him I promise to do everything in one take. I won't waste any of their time. I promise.
Oh, my God.
And my agent did it, and they said, well, you know what? We can work with that. Okay. So now I'm on the set, and I'm doing everything in one take, everything in one take, everything in one take. And then there was a particularly emotional scene. My grandmother's dying. She's in the hospital, or in whatever the Fantasy Island hospital thing was. And Ricardo Montalban, the scene involved him. And so we shot the master shot. We're shooting the other close-ups, and it came around to me, and I got the master shot in one take, and then my close-up in one take, and the director said, okay, cut, print, moving on. And Ricardo Montalban looked at everybody and said, what are you doing? And everybody turned, because everyone on the crew knew what my restriction was. And they said, well, no, that was great. We want to move on. He says, this is a very emotional scene. Give the young man an opportunity to do a second one. And everyone got super nervous and looked at each other like, we're going to get into trouble for this. But then they went ahead and they shot a second take. I did the second take better than I did the first take. And they said, cut. And Ricardo said, you see, that's exactly what I was talking about.
Wow. What a sweetheart, though, for doing that for you.
Yeah, I got treated with a great deal of respect by people I really respected. So it was nice.
Yeah, that's because you were pro.
Yes, correct.
And they appreciated that. This is yours.
Yes. We did hear a little bit already, but Little House on the Prairie, which you also did 2 different parts on.
Yeah. Centennial was the first episode I did with, and I played a member of a Russian immigrant family. Theodore Bickel played my father, and they were going to lose their land for some particular reason, and so Pa was trying to help them out and be there for them. And I remember my very first day on the set was at the studio at Paramount. I think it was Paramount. Anyway, I walked onto that set, and man, it was buzzing like a top. People were moving and working and shaking and getting things done and laughing and having such a good time. And I thought, this is an incredible crew. I mean, they were absolutely amazing. And again, I do say in the book, Disney was always my favorite studio to work for, but the Little House crew was the best crew I ever worked with.
Wow.
They were like a family. They treated the guest stars like family. Because some shows you kind of get shuffled off to the side because you're not part of the main cast, and you're not paid as much attention to or taken care of as well. But not the Little House set. It was extraordinary. And
I love it.
Working with Michael was just like, I mean, it was crazy. It was just like watching an absolute maestro run that set. And I think he directed he didn't direct the episode I was in, but he had a scene where he had to cry. And I was standing back watching him. I wasn't involved in the scene, but I thought, man, I just want to watch this guy work because I've heard stories. So I'm standing there, and Michael's directing people and, producing the show as well and talking to people and signing stuff. And they said, okay, Michael, we're ready to shoot this. And he says, okay, great. And he stood off camera, and they called roll sound, slate, ready, and by the time they said ready, and Michael was bawling crocodile tears like you wouldn't believe. He dredged up all this emotion in about 15 seconds and walked into the scene going, and I thought, oh, gee whiz, man, that is insane. I'd never seen anything like that before. And he could just do that on
On cue.
on command. It was just on cue. He could just get the tears flowing, and I thought that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a show where it created such a indelible imprint on all of us.
Yes.
And now and the cast is so close and the fans are so close. And everyone's written a book. And if you want to start from the beginning, watching the shows and reading the book, there's just so much to mine. It's just wonderful.
Yes.
What a legacy.
Great people. I'm still friends with Patrick Laberteau and Alison Arngrim. Even though I only did a couple of episodes, but we've stayed in touch over the years, and yeah, it's a great legacy for television for sure.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
For sure.
All right. Also, we all remember the ABC after school specials, and what's unique about these, I think, is that unlike Little House, we watched them once. I don't know where they went.
Yes,
they went to some after school cloud in the sky. I would love to have an after-school special channel where we could all revisit these. Because for us, it was the first time we were hearing about certain issues, right?
Drugs,
right?
STDs,
yeah.
divorce.
And so, exactly. And so yours is, I think you were in more than one, but there's one you were in with Beau Bridges where the title is, and the titles were not subtle.
Not
if you,
subtle.
You didn't
Yeah.
have to
No,
read the
not at all.
description after you read the title. That was going to do it for you. Yours is called My Dad Lives in a Downtown Motel. So tell us what you can about that.
That was a particularly powerful part for me to get because it was even though I didn't get starring billing, I was the star of that show. I was in every scene. It was about the boy because it was about a family going through a divorce and the child having to learn how to deal with it. And the parents having to learn how to deal with it. And at the time, I mean, these days, you divorce, yeah, right. It happens everywhere all the time. But back in the mid-'70s, it was not so common, but it was starting to become common. And so the powers that be at ABC decided that they wanted to use it as a subject for an after-school special to provide, some kind of emotional support for other kids out there that were probably going through the same thing.
Right.
So it was a tough show to do. It was very emotional. I worked really hard on it, and Beau Bridges was an absolutely incredible support system for me. He took me under his wing and he would rehearse with me, and he was on set with me, and he kind of helped guide me through carrying a show like that and the work that was involved. And yeah, it was a tremendous experience, and it was. I think it was honestly in reconstructing my career. I think it was the show, the credit that helped Virginia Higgins at Disney decide that they could trust me with a movie.
Wow.
Because I had done that.
Oh.
But yeah, I loved after school specials, for goodness sakes. I did that plus a hilarious one called The Amazing Cosmic Awareness of Duffy Moon with Lance Kerwin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a practically slapstick, off the wall comedy about two kids, and I played the kid, this awkward kid that has no confidence in himself. And I find a book called Amazing Cosmic Awareness that I buy, and I read it voraciously, and I decide to try to follow all the advice in it so that I can find my inner strength and be a powerful person. And just everything goes wrong from the get-go all the way to the end. You just have to be yourself. That was probably one of the most prevalent, I think, lessons that those after-school specials communicated was that really, I mean, you just have to be yourself and trust yourself, and not an easy thing for many people, to learn. But
no,
that was a lot of fun.
Especially when you don't know who yourself is yet.
Yes, that is true.
Everyone's saying be yourself, and at 12 you're like, who even is that?
Right.
Right.
I'm in creation.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
You are right. Yeah.
The Formula.
Yes. Formula was fascinating. Massive studio
Marlon
movie.
Brando,
George C.
Scott.
Directed by John Avildsen, who directed Rocky. It was based on a big bestseller back then. That was the story was the idea that somehow during World War II, the Germans had discovered a formula for gasoline, so they could synthetically create gasoline, and that's the underlying thread that pulls George C. Scott, who plays a detective, along trying to solve a murder case, and it takes him on a wild adventure to Europe and Germany and all of that. But I was cast as his son, and again, I was 16 at the time, and I had a meeting. My callback for the film was a meeting with George and John Avildsen. And I didn't have to read again. We just had a conversation. And George kind of went on to did this little speech about how my part is very pivotal and important because they really needed the audience to know how strong a relationship that we had together as father and son. Because all throughout the movie, George C. Scott keeps reiterating, "You're dragging me into this, and all I want to do is get back to my son. He's the most important thing to me," and it was another theme in the movie. So I had several scenes. I spent 2 weeks shooting these amazing scenes with George. And by the time the movie came out, I went to go see it. And all of a sudden I pop out of a movie theater with George and I have like 3 lines and all my other scenes have been cut out.
Oh, no.
And I thought, what the heck? And it turns out Steve Shagan, the man who wrote the novel, also produced the film and wrote the screenplay. He and John Avildsen did not get along, and Steve hated everything that John did. So after John delivered his director's cut, Steve came in and recut the whole movie and cut me out of it. He didn't want me in it. Not me personally. He didn't want my character in it.
Right.
I'm not kidding you. Every single review that came out said, "What's going on with this disjointed movie? Why is George C. Scott's character keep talking about his son, but you never see his son?"
Oh, wow.
Has there been a director's cut where you're back in?
Oh, no. No, that movie did okay. It didn't do that great. It was a very topical story that didn't last for very long. So nope, it's just an anecdotal story that's interesting because people get cut out of movies all the time
for every reason possible.
And yeah, creative differences can be rough.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk Race to Witch Mountain because that was more emotional, I think, than you thought it was going to be, that experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a phone call in Florida one day from Andy Fickman, the director, and he says, "Look, we're making Race to Witch Mountain. It's a reimagining of Escape to Witch Mountain, and we'd really love it if you would want to be in it." And I was ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic, and so excited. And he told me that just to be prepared because he said everyone on this movie is a fan of the Witch Mountain films. Everyone. He said we even had to turn people away from jobs because they just simply wanted to work on the film so that they could meet you and Kim.
Oh my God.
And I thought, holy cow, man, that's really amazing. So I had decided to kind of turn this trip out to Los Angeles into a traipse down memory lane. So I took the DVD of Escape to Witch Mountain with me, and I had the night before we were going to start rehearsals to get a chance to watch it. So I popped it in the DVD player in the hotel room, just expecting to watch my movie. And I can't tell you, after the opening credits rolled and the first shots happened, I just burst into tears and I was crying like a baby. Because all the memories started to flood over me. All of them started to flood. And I thought, man, I just can't believe this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold myself together, walking onto that set. But we ended up getting to the studio, and Andy was the first person to meet me, and he was so excited. And all these other people started running around saying, "Oh my God, it's the real Tony! The real Tony is here! Ike! Oh my God, it's so nice to meet you!" And they were coming out of the woodwork. So Andy was not exaggerating in the slightest bit. Kim and I both got to play decent cameos. I mean, we weren't just there for nostalgic reference. We were actually part of moving the story forward, and it was such an honor that it's kind of hard to encapsulate. I mean, I mean, it was fun to do. Dwayne Johnson has got to be the nicest man in the world.
Wow.
If you were any nicer, you'd have to shoot him. I mean, he was just amazing. So it was a whole lot of fun to do, and I was so happy they got it done, because Disney had spent 10 years trying to find a script and a story and a director and a production. The production company that did it was trying to put deals together forever, and then they finally put that one together, and it happened.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. Oh, yeah, you have another.
All right, I have one last question,
Okay.
unless you have one last question as well.
No, other than
We have 18 last questions, Ike.
Yeah, no, we just want to make sure people know where they can find you online, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is just my last question, and people need to read the book to find out about your retirement and you know what you ended up doing instead of being on camera,
and your love story,
Yes.
and your love story,
and the looping,
all of
and
it.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah, the looping and the love story, and
Yes, but here's
Yes.
what I want to ask you, okay? Because you are clearly an artist, you're clearly a pro, you wanted to do this since you were a little kid, you had a very successful career. Is there any part of you that misses performing on camera and would like to still do it? I mean, obviously you liked doing that fine, that movie, but is there more? Is there more for you to do? Is there stage work? I just want to know if you, the actor, are you fulfilled?
I'm totally fulfilled. I have absolutely no burning desire to do that anymore.
Wow.
When I retired, it was very clear to me that I wanted to move on.
Yeah.
And I've always been that kind of artist, one way or the other. When I feel like I've done what I needed and wanted to do, and I'm at the end of it, I'm ready to move on. And I can't say, I did some theater that I talk about in the book that was a miserable experience for me, because I don't consider myself a performer. I just always consider myself that wanted to be a part of this process. And in order to do that, I had to perform. So it's a cart before the horse kind of situation for me. But that was it. Race to Witch Mountain was my reminder that it cemented the idea that I had no pull to get back into the business. It was a great way to close it out. I still, in my looping work, which you can read about in the book, it's a fascinating aspect of my career, I think. And that did involve performing, but in a very, very different way, in a highly creative, improvisational way. There was a massive contribution to the industry, and so that was fun work, and I loved that. But even when I sort of reached the end of my time doing that, I was ready to move on and just step out of the business completely. And I moved to Florida, and I've never looked back.
Amazing.
That's wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah, like you're just a very purposeful person. Like, you take a look at whatever the situation is, you figure out the best way to handle what you're going through, and you do it. And that's just like, you're just like an innately confident and capable person, because what you faced is huge, but you face it with so much grace and dignity and honor.
Yes.
So it's a wonderful book. Where can people find you online, Ike?
Facebook. Just search for my name. You'll find my page, and you'll see all my content there.
Excellent. All right, we'll have the link in our show notes. Here come your closing credits. Lisa, where can we see you do stand-up comedy?
Oh, I will be, I'm so unprepared, Wheezy. I'll be June 28th at 5 p.m. I will be at Flappers in the main room. July 12th, I'll be at Flappers in my own show with my handpicked comedians at Flappers in the Yoo-Hoo Room, and I have some other shows I'll tell you about next time.
All right, excellent. We want to thank our guest, Ike Eisenmann. Our team includes producer Dina Friedman, John Mannix, Mason Brown, Raf Rusek, Jordan Reyes, Haley Freight, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. Before I go, I would like to say this is Raf's last show. Raf has been handpicked to work in post-production on The Foundation, Apple TV's Foundation Season 4. Look for Raf in the credits or you can ask him to do a Starbucks run because he's going to be getting very proficient at that type of work before he moves on to director, producer, writer
Status.
I am Louise Planker here with Lisa Arch and Ike Eisenmann. Be well and wise. Take good care of each other, and we will see you along the media path.
Thank you, Ike.
That was so
Man, thank you guys so much. That was really, really fun. You guys are great.
Aw, thank you. You're fascinating.
You're so kind. I really do appreciate the wonderful words you shared with me. It means a lot. Thank you.
Those two kids are witches.